Good morning, children. Today we are starting control and coordination, the human brain. You know, brain is the controlling center of our body. Brain receives sensory information from all body parts, interpret it and send motor impulses or motor messages to all the body parts. So brain receive information, sensory impulses or information from all the body parts. Now how the brain receive it? Brain receive the information through spinal cord. Spinal cord collect information from all the body parts, and through the spinal cord the information reaches the brain. So we can understand that brain and spinal cord are very important part of the body, and they constitute the central nervous system. So central nervous system or CNS consists of brain and spinal cord. Brain and spinal cord. After receiving the information by the brain interprets all the information and compare it with the information already stored in the brain. So brain, after receiving the sensory information from all the body parts through the spinal cord, brain interpret the information and compare it with the information already stored in the brain. Brain has the capacity to store the information, sensory impulses for long time, and when they receive the information, fresh information, they compare it with and interpret the information. Accordingly, the brain generate motor impulses. Brain generate motor impulses. That motor impulses now goes to all body parts back through the spinal cord. So how this spinal cord connect with all body parts? Yes, it is through the spinal nerve. From spinal cord, suppose this is the spinal cord, and this spinal cord, from the spinal cord there arises lot of spinal nerves. So these are called spinal nerves. This spinal nerves goes to all body parts. Spinal nerves goes to all body parts and collect the information. And the information that is motor impulses coming from the brain now pass through the spinal cord and reaches to all the body parts through this spinal nerve. The nerves arising from the brain is called cranial nerve. The nerves arising from the brain is called a cranial nerve. So cranial nerve arise from the brain and spinal nerve arise from the spinal cord. So in this way, cranial nerve and spinal nerve connect the central nervous system to all body parts. In this way, the brain and spinal cord has communication with the rest of the body. How is the brain protected? You know, brain is protected inside the skull. Brain is protected inside the skull. Skull is otherwise called the cranium. Cranium is the bony box. Cranium is the bony box. This is called the skull or cranium. C-R-A-N-A-U-M, cranium. Okay? This cranium, inside the cranium, there are three layers. Inside the cranium, there are three layers. These three layers are called meninges. M-E-N-I-N-G-E-S, meninges. There are three layers inside the cranium, that is meninges. In between meninges, there is filled a fluid that is called cerebrospinal fluid. Cerebrospinal fluid. Cerebrospinal fluid. In between the meninges, the layers, there is filled a fluid. That fluid is called the cerebrospinal fluid. So cranium and cerebrospinal fluid protect the brain from external shocks and injuries. So this is how the brain is protected. Now let's go to inside the brain. Inside the brain, you can see there are three important regions, or the human brain has three important parts. The first part is called the forebrain. This front part of the brain is called the forebrain. The major part of the forebrain is the cerebrum. Cerebrum is the front part of the brain. Okay, and this is the largest part of the brain. Cerebrum is the largest part of the brain. Cerebrum. Cerebrum is the largest part of the brain. Cerebrum contains deep fissures and grooves. Deep fissures, foldings, deep foldings. These deep foldings are caused due to or developed due to compactness. The brain is fixed or arranged in the cranium in a tight manner, intactly. So we can understand that because of the pressing and tight fixation or arrangement of the cerebrum inside the cranium, the cerebrum develops fissures and grooves. So cerebrum is the largest part of the brain, and the cerebrum or forebrain helps in the control of voluntary actions. Voluntary action. So what is the meaning of voluntary action? The action which happens with our will and wish is called the voluntary actions, voluntary activities. For example, walking, thinking, eating, running, and all intellectual activities might be controlled by the cerebrum. So cerebrum is the largest part of the body, and it controls voluntary actions such as walking and many other voluntary actions that happens with our will and wish of our body is called voluntary action. So cerebrum is the largest part of the brain. It is the seat of all intelligence. For different functions, for different voluntary action, there are different centers in the brain. For example, for smell identification, there is a center. For hearing, for touch sensation, for walking, for writing, for smiling, and all voluntary actions, there are different centers in the cerebrum, right? And inside the cerebrum, you can see middle or midbrain. Inside the cerebrum, you can see the midbrain. So midbrain you can see inside the cerebrum or forebrain. Now you can see the midbrain has no much function as such, midbrain. But along with the midbrain, the hindbrain, this is the part of the hindbrain. Hindbrain control involuntary action, various types of involuntary actions. So what is involuntary action? The action which happens beyond or without our will and wish. Without our will and wish is called involuntary action. So the midbrain and hindbrain controls involuntary actions. Involuntary actions. Then particularly what is the function of midbrain? Midbrain controls or act as the relay center through which the impulses coming from the spinal cord reaches the cerebrum. The impulses coming from different body parts through the spinal cord reach the cerebrum through midbrain. So midbrain is called relay centers of impulses, particularly sensory impulses. Now hindbrain has three important parts. Hindbrain has three important parts. They are pons, medulla oblongata, and this part, that is the second largest part of the brain, that is called cerebellum. So what are the parts of the hindbrain? Hindbrain consists of pons, medulla and cerebellum. Pons, medulla and cerebellum together form the hindbrain. So I already told you midbrain has the function of relay of sensory impulses coming through it, and near the midbrain there are two parts, hypothalamus and pituitary gland. Hypothalamus and pituitary gland. Hypothalamus and pituitary gland. So near the, or in between the midbrain and hindbrain, you can see the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. They have different functions of secretion of different hormones. So once again, midbrain and hindbrain together perform involuntary functions. So what are the involuntary functions? Functions that are happening without or beyond our will and wish is called these involuntary actions. Now in hindbrain you can see pons, medulla and cerebellum. Pons control the breathing or respiration. Medulla then heartbeat, they control the rate of heartbeat. Cerebellum controls the involuntary actions such as balancing the body and posture. They maintain the posture and balance of the body. We are able to stand right. When we stand, we are able to stand in an equilibrium posture. So that equilibrium posture is maintained by cerebellum, right? And when we cycle, when we do cycling, when we walk, when we try to take pencil, fall on the ground, all the time the cerebellum try our body posture. They maintain the equilibrium of our body. So in this way, cerebellum acts as the very important organ that maintains the balance and posture and equilibrium of the body. You know, cerebellum is the second largest part of the brain. Cerebellum is the second largest part of the brain. Second largest part of the brain is cerebellum. The first part is cerebrum. Okay, so in short, we can say the brain has three important parts: forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. Forebrain controls voluntary action. It includes cerebrum, right? It includes cerebrum. Cerebrum is the largest part of the body and it is the seat of all intelligence. So human cerebrum is the most powerful one when compared with other animal. Okay, the cerebrum in humans are very powerful and with maximum intelligence because of the maximum number of neurons are tightly, compactly packed in the cerebrum. That's why it develops fissures and grooves. Okay, so cerebrum controls voluntary actions. The second part of this brain is the midbrain. Midbrain acts as the relay center of impulses coming from different body parts through the spinal cord. Now, hypothalamus and pituitary glands are also seen just near the midbrain. And the lowermost part of the brain is called the hindbrain, which consists of pons, medulla and cerebellum. Pons control the breathing or respiration, medulla control the heartbeat, and cerebellum controls the posture and balance and also maintain the equilibrium of the body. Now, this medulla continues through the spinal cord. Medulla continues through the spinal cord. The spinal cord in turn being protected inside the vertebral column or backbone. Okay? Spinal cord. The spinal cord is the continuation of the medulla. The full name of medulla is medulla oblongata. Now, the brain generates motor impulses, and that motor impulses is conveyed through the spinal cord. From brain, cranial nerves comes out and it joins through the spinal cord, and from spinal cord, spinal nerves spread out throughout the body. Spread out throughout the body, and it goes to each and every part of the body. So what is the nerve? Nerve is a collection of neuron or bundle of neuron. Nerve is the bundle of neuron. Bundle of neurons. Neurons are connected or joined together, large number of neurons, okay, and they are bound by, they are covered by a sheath of connective tissue or epithelium. Such a bundle of nerves surrounded or protected by connective tissue is called a nerve. Such nerves are two categories I told you: cranial nerves coming from the brain and spinal nerves coming from the spinal cord. Now, if I tell you these nerves together, all the nerves together form the peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system, PNS. So, peripheral nervous system consists of cranial nerves coming from the brain and spinal nerve coming from the spinal cord. So, there are two important systems in our body for communication of various messages. What are they? Central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. Okay, central nervous system consists of brain and spinal cord. Then peripheral nervous system consists of cranial nerves and spinal nerves. Right? Now you have already studied about neurons. Neurons are the structural and functional unit of nervous system. Okay, both the central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Neurons. Okay. So you have already drawn the diagram of neuron and studied the functions of neuron. But there are certain advantages and disadvantages of nervous system or nervous communication. Nervous system or neurons are the fastest means of communication. In our body, neuron or nerve is the fastest means of communication. Fastest means of communication. It means that the nerve impulse or the nervous information, okay, what we call the impulse or nerve information or messages pass within fraction of second from brain to all body parts. But there are two limitations for the nervous communication or neuron communication or nervous communication has two limitations. The first limitation is that the neurons or nerves are not connected to all the cells of our body. Okay, the nerve communication or nervous communication reach to only to those cells which are connected with the nervous tissue or neuron. The first limitation, the nervous tissue or neurons are not connected to each and every cell of our body, not connected to each and every cell, to each and every cell of our body, every cell of our body. So the information or nervous information or communication messages will not reach to those cells. That is one of the limitation of the nervous communication. The second limitation is this. So the nervous communication or nerve impulses, once generated and transmitted to all body parts, it will take some time for the next information, next message to generate and transfer. So what is the second limitation? The second limitation is that the nervous communication or nervous stimulus cannot be produced in a continuous manner because it will take some time for the second information or second message to be generated and transferred or communicated to all body parts. Once the information is generated and communicated to all body parts, it will take some time for the next information to be generated. So the nervous tissue is not in very fast for the continuous formation of the information. So what are the two limitations of the nerve communications? First, nervous tissues are not in contact with each and every cell of the body. The impulses or information will not reach to those cells which are not connected. First. Second one, it will take some time for resetting and sending of this information, sending of impulses or information for second time. So once the first time it is generated, it will be communicated to all body parts. But second time, when the impulses are generated, it will be taking certain amount of time. So it is having certain gap in the formation of the second impulses. So that are the two limitations of the nerve communication. Still, nervous communication is the fastest means of communication. Now, to overcome these limitations, we developed another method, another system that is called endocrine system. Endocrine system secrete hormones. We know that hormones.